Hello everyone, it's Mariners Fanatic, and today I'll be back with another video. As you can see from the title, today I will be going over the off-season, covering what the Mariners did, how I feel about their off-season, just kind of evaluating every single move that Jerry Dipoto and this Mariners front office made in the 2021 off-season. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. Like, subscribe, comment below your thoughts and how you think the Mariners did this offseason. And without further ado, I'm going to get into talking about the moves. So first, I'm going to be talking about the guys who will be returning, who are already with the Mariners and either re-signed contracts or went through the arbitration process. Kendall Graveman, his $3 million option actually got declined, and they bought out that option and instead re-signed him to just a 1 year, $1.25 million contract. His salary a little bit. He didn't perform too well last year. He also struggled with injuries, but they wanted to bring him back and give him another shot. I think he's grateful for that, and I think he's also excited to get after. This time, he won't be deployed as a starter. He'll probably be in the bullpen. So I'm still excited to see what Kendall Graveman can bring to the team. Some other minor re-signings. Matt McGill, he had some issues last year with his elbow, I believe. Just some injury struggles. He should be back, and hopefully he can maybe be a part of that bullpen. Gerson Bautista, of course, a part of the Robinson Cano trade a few years back. He's had some injury troubles since coming to the Mariners. They're hoping that he can return to form. Brady Lael pitched a little bit for the Mariners last year. Jimmy Yacobonis as well had a few innings. And then Connor Lean is also a guy they re-signed. These will pretty much all be bullpen options, every single one of these guys. But it's good to have depth in that area, as last year had a really bad bullpen. Moving on to arbitration deals, no surprises there. We didn't have very many players going through that process, so that was good. But J.P. Crawford earns himself a $2.05 million contract. Mitch Haniger, because of his injuries, his contract is not that much money, which is nice. It's still affordable. He's going to be earning a little over $3 million. Then Tom Murphy is sitting a bit under $1 million with $875,000. All three of those players are going to be key members of this year's team, so it's important to have them back. And I'm excited to see what Mitch Haniger can do in his return. I'm also excited to see if JP can keep up his Gold Glove performance and maybe improve the offense, as well as see if Tom Murphy can come back from injury. Now, some new minors deals. I'm not going to focus too much on these guys because I don't really know a lot about them. These are all the minors deals that I could find. There may be a few more that slipped through the cracks during my research, but these are the guys that I found that we signed throughout the offseason. Taylor Guerrieri, I don't know how to say that. JT Cargo, Dylan Thomas, Roenis Elias returning, Paul Sewald, Drew Steckenrider, Robert Dugard, and Sam Travis. All of these are pretty much pitchers except for Dylan Thomas and Sam Travis, and they're mostly just depth pieces added to the squad. Roenis Elias making his return is somewhat exciting, gives us another lefty option in the pen potentially. He could also long relief, fill in for a spot start. So that's a good minors deal. And Robert Dugard is an interesting one as we traded him to Miami in the Dee Gordon trade. So it's interesting to get him back. I think that trade didn't really work out for either side. Effectively, Dee Gordon had 1.5 good seasons with the Mariners. But other than that, his contract was just enormous. Luckily, we didn't get screwed in that and have one of those players we traded become a superstar with the Marlins. Anyway, so those are the minors deals. There's also the Rule 5 draft. We picked up Will Vest from the Tigers. If he makes the club, he'll be another bullpen option. Excited to see some of these guys. Most of them I don't know much about, but it'll be interesting to see who can crack into the bullpen, big league squad, and who can show development. It'll be also interesting to see if Dylan Thomas or Sam Travis can break camp with the squad as bench bats. Moving on, let's talk about the only trade Jerry Dipoto made this offseason, which is very surprising. He traded Jose Corniel and a player to be named later to the Rangers for Rafael Montero. Corniel is a 17-year-old prospect. He's a 17-year-old prospect. There's not much to be known about him. He's a big kid, high potential, but he's so far away, and we have a pretty solid farm system already. They're thinking, okay, we can sacrifice a prospect here. I couldn't find anywhere who the player to be named later is or was. I don't know if they've even made that decision yet, but that's who we were giving up for Rafael Montero, who is a failed Mets starting pitcher prospect who turned into kind of a really good bullpen arm for the Rangers over 2 seasons. He hasn't thrown that many innings, but he's pitched to a 3.09 ERA, 3.78 FIP in 46 innings with Texas in 2 years. He's had 8 saves, and he will probably be our closer. This is a really good move, I think, going through the trade market to get a closer instead of the free agent market. A lot of the closers were either too expensive or kind of older, even though like Alex Colome would have been a nice fit to bring him back to the squad. He's also getting up there in age, and they're going with a little more youth here, picking up Montero in the trade. I'm hoping this trade works out. I think it will, but it's too early to say that for now. But overall, I like this move. So moving on to the arms we picked up in the free agent market. You can see there on the top, returning to the Mariners is James Paxton on a 1-year, $8.5 million contract with incentives up to $10 million if he can make over 20 starts, which is really what we're hoping for. With the 6-man rotation, if we can get 25 starts out of James Paxton, that'll be huge. Obviously, he's coming off injuries and he's been injury prone in the past. So they're taking a bit of a flyer here. If he can stay healthy, he will be an elite starting pitcher. But if he can't, the contract's not that big, so it's not too much to worry about, and it's just 1 year. Paxton's basically going to be rebuilding his value this season, and if he can stay healthy and prove that he's still an elite starter, then next year he will probably command a much larger contract. And who knows, the Mariners might re-sign him, or they could decide, you know what, we want to explore other options next year. But I think this is a really good deal for both sides. It gives Paxton a chance to rebuild his value, and it gives the Mariners, if he is healthy and good, a top of the rotation starter. Next up, with one of the more recent moves, Ken Giles. The deal's for 2 years, and I couldn't find anywhere what the dollar amount is yet. I don't think they've released that information. But I think this is an excellent move. I don't think Ken Giles was on a lot of people's radars since he had Tommy John and other injury issues within the past year or two. But Ken Giles has been really good. Ken Giles has a career FIP of 2.45, which is insane. That's really, really good. He's also got a career strikeout per nine of 12.3. His numbers are just electric. He had a couple down years in Houston, but he's pitched well in Toronto so far, and he pitched really well when he first came up with Philadelphia. He's been a good bullpen arm, and this is a really sneaky move. I don't think a lot of people really saw Ken Giles and was like, oh, we're going to sign him this year. They're probably thinking, we'll wait until he's healed and then we'll sign him to a contract. So for Dipoto to kind of steal him from everybody and like, we'll pay him, let him rehab and do all that, and we'll save him for 22 when we're ready to really compete for a playoff spot. Unfortunately, he won't be able to help us out this year, but I still think it's a good move, and he could be back potentially by September. I'm excited. I like this move, and I'm hoping that Ken Giles can get healthy and be a big part of our club. So next up, we have Keynan Middleton. The contract he signed is worth about 800,000, with incentives to up to, he could make up to $1 million. I believe it's only a 1-year contract, but this is another good move. Keynan Middleton is from the Portland area and has been a lifelong Mariners fan as far as I know. So it's exciting to get a guy who's kind of a hometown guy and likes this team and wants to be a part of what the Mariners have got going on. For his career, Middleton has a 3.48 ERA, which is pretty solid. His FIP's a little bit higher, a little over 4, but it's still pretty solid, and his ERA plus is 125, which is good. Middleton has had some injury issues. He's been with the Angels since 2017. His only full year was in 2017 where he threw 58 innings, and he had a good year that year, but overall he hasn't really been on the field. This is a bit of a flyer, a bit of a risk. If he can stay healthy, then he's going to be a good bullpen arm, but ultimately he's got to stay healthy. But overall, I am excited about this move, and I think it was a good, cheaper option on the market. Lastly, we're going to talk about Chris Flexen. This is probably the most complicated deal. I'm not even going to be able to explain all of it. But basically, the deal is a 2-year, 4.75 million guarantee with a $4 million option for 2023, and that option turns into a vesting option if he reaches certain milestones for innings pitched. As long as he's healthy, is playing and is performing well, essentially, then he will get that option for 23 regardless of whether the team decides to give him the option or not. So it's an interesting move. The way the move is structured, it's beneficial for both sides because theoretically, if we're getting use out of him and he's performing well, then he'll get that contract extended. And if he's not pitching well and doesn't throw for us very many innings, then he'll probably be on his way out at some point. This is also a bit of a risky move as Flexen has struggled in the big leagues. He was great in Korea the past couple years with the Dinos. I hope that Chris Flexen can prove me wrong, but I wasn't really very excited about this move to begin with. I feel like there's better arms out there that we could have gotten as opposed to someone who's unproven in the big leagues. It's still a solid move, but I'm just not as excited about it. So lastly, my overall grade for this offseason is a B minus. At the beginning of the offseason, Dipoto said he was going to work on the bullpen and get that right, and he did, I think. Maybe not the star power names like Liam Hendriks you're looking for, but we also knew we weren't going to get that anyways. So I think he did a pretty good job of rebuilding the bullpen with guys who can be really solid and also aren't that expensive. I also like the fact that he brought Paxton back. I wasn't sure this one was going to happen. I kind of mentioned it or thought about it a few weeks back. I was like, I don't know. Another lefty in the rotation. I'm not a huge fan of 4 lefties in our rotation. Face the Angels with Trout, Rendon. Even though Pujols isn't what he used to be, he still hits left-handed pitching. The Astros have Bregman, Correa. They've still got some guys that can hit left-handed pitching pretty good, and then the A's have like Matt Chapman, Ramon Laureano, Chad Pinder, Mark Canha, a bunch of right-handed hitters. I'm not a big fan of having our top 4 starters be left-handed pitchers. As you can see there, they didn't get a proven right-handed starting pitcher. Chris Flexen for me is not the move. I hope he does well, but it's just not what I would have done. Personally, I would have liked to have seen Taijuan Walker back for maybe a 3-year, $33 million contract. I think that would have been a fair contract for him. And I truly believe that Taijuan Walker would have continued to succeed. But I do like the Paxton acquisition. It's a deal that's team friendly and player friendly. And if he's good, he will be really good. But that top 4, Marco, Paxton, Sheffield, Kikuchi, it's just a lot of lefties at the top of the rotation. Also, basically nothing was done with the offense. Dipoto's essentially saying what we had last year was good enough, and we're going to roll with that. To this point, a left-handed bat has not been acquired. Guys like Colton Wong, Jock Peterson, Mitch Moreland, there's a lot of guys that are off the market now that could have been available. Now, they may not have been great fits, and we weren't going to sign anybody to a long-term deal with guys like Kelenic and Rodriguez coming up, but we needed a short-term option with a more proven bat. I personally don't think Shedlog's the answer. I also don't think Jose Marmoleos is the answer. I would have liked to have seen us go out and get someone who's like Jock Peterson, who really is not that expensive, or even Colton Wong, and then put Dylan Moore in left field. Whatever you want to do there. I just really think that a left-handed bat to balance out the lineup needed to be acquired, and that did not happen. I'm a little disappointed in that. Also, as I mentioned, I really, really liked the sneaky Ken Giles pickup. Essentially, we're investing in him to get back to form and pitch well for when we're ready to compete in 2022. And that's kind of the last thing that I'm excited about this offseason is Dipoto made a lot of great moves. I wish, like I said, I wish he'd gotten a left-handed bat or a right-handed starter for the rotation, but we are preparing for that free agent class of 2022, which is stacked. This year was really good, but this year's free agent class also featured a lot of players that didn't necessarily fit what the Mariners are doing per se. I'm really excited for this season, but I also know that this is not the push for the playoffs. Dipoto said he has wanted to be competitive, and I think we could make the playoffs if everything hits right. But 2022 is really the year I think that Dipoto's going to go for it, and 2023, and so I'm really excited for next year's 2022 free agent class and what Dipoto's going to do there. So we'll see how this season goes. Overall, like I said, B minus on the offseason grade. It was a solid offseason for Dipoto, but I think there could have been a couple more things done, even in the short term. If you are preparing for 2022, there's still a couple more things that could have been done. I was excited about this offseason, happy with the results overall. That's going to be my analysis for the offseason, guys. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below on the offseason, and I will see you guys in the next video. Mariners Fanatic out.